Hello again, everybody. I'm Matthew White, and welcome to the Real Estate Channel studio for another edition of FYI. I'm pleased to have in the studio with me today a very fine fellow by the name of Richard Bell from Bell Alliance, a partner there. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Matt.
It's been a pleasure to make your acquaintance over the last little while. I want to start off by asking you, first of all, how long you've been practicing law and what got you into the real estate side of things.
Well, if the gray hair is any hint, I've been practicing law for quite some time. So about 25 years I've practiced. I started out with a fairly general solicitor's practice where I was doing real estate, wills, estates, and some corporate commercial work as well. Ended up specializing as the practice grew on real estate, primarily because I'm basically a real people's person. And when you're helping people buy their homes, it's a wonderful way to spend your day. So that's really what took me into the real estate practice.
It certainly is dealing with people at a very emotional and interesting time, no doubt.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. It's what we call really fun law, positive law, because it's always a great moment for these folks, although they do want to make sure that they're getting some good advice.
Right.
Because it's a lot of money they're spending, especially in the city of Vancouver.
Now, you recently spent 5 years in Toronto. What was that all about?
Yeah, that was an interesting little venture, and Toronto is a favorite word of mine, an interesting city, right? Lots of fun. Great arts scene in Toronto. Basically what we had done, my partner and I had developed a network of lawyers across Canada that were working together to try and centralize and streamline the closing of real estate transactions. So I did that working with a company that was owned by Brascan Financial. Also had the pleasure of being involved in the startup of a small mortgage bank as well as a large mortgage brokerage company in Toronto. So it was a great experience. Then decided to move back to Lotus Land, and most of my family's here, and decided to take some of those things that I'd experienced in those other areas and incorporate them into my new practice.
Now, for someone that's actually starting to look for a real estate lawyer, what should they look for and what should they do to get one?
Couple things. I think basically you want to find someone who has a few years practice focusing on real estate. They don't necessarily need to have as much gray hair as I have, but it is important to have that experience. Really what they should then do is look to their other professional advisors, such as their realtor, their lender, their mortgage brokers, and also friends and family. I think the key is you want to be able to talk to the lawyer before you've engaged them, see whether there's a good personality of fit, and then just move forward based on that conversation as well as recommendations that you've received.
So go with the recommendations, but also what your gut's telling you as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you think of the fact that you're working with a realtor, for example, to find the home that you really want to fall in love with, you know, if you're relying on them to do that for you, you should seek their advice on the other professional advisors that they can refer you through to, whether it's a lender, a broker, an appraiser, those sorts of folks that can help out in the process.
Now, I know this is a tough question to answer, but I'm going to throw it at you anyways. What differentiates you guys from the rest? What makes Bell Alliance different?
Well, I think there's a few things. During my experience in Toronto, we had designed a mortgage bank that was a paperless model. And so one of the things that we've done is utilize the latest in technology to try and improve the closing process, not only in terms of reducing paper to help the environment, which is clearly a very hot and important topic
Indeed.
in the marketplace, but also to be able to communicate with our clients and the other professional advisors that work with our clients. I think the most important thing, though, is what we do is that when clients are working with our firm, they have a lot of lawyer contact.
Right.
So probably about 80% of the client interaction with our firm is in fact with the lawyer, whereas in many other situations it's more with the support staff. So I think that really is a critical differentiator for our firm.
We have a lot of people watching the Real Estate Channel that are potential first-time buyers or first-time buyers in the making. What is the best advice you could give these people before they buy?
I think clearly it goes back to some of my earlier comments. Get your team together.
Right.
So who are you going to use in terms of buying the property, closing the property, helping you find some financing? It's amazing when in fact you're working with a very professional team that's connected and keeping everyone informed as to what's happening in the process. That's the number one thing they should do.
That's good advice. We've had your partner Ron on the show before. How did you guys end up meeting?
Actually, Ron was with the Law Society for a number of years working on some technology initiatives. We had kept in communication probably over the last 20 years because one of my first consultants that I hired who had technology and legal experience was Ron Usher. He then went on to practice for a while and with the Law Society. So when I was moving back from Toronto, I thought, well, what greater person could you have join the firm? Someone who had a real estate background, technology background, and also had been with the Law Society doing some very, very good work with them, particularly in terms of working with the Land Title Office in getting to electronic registration, which is one of our pet objectives, is to eliminate the paper from this rather paper, cumbersome, and heavy process.
You seem to be a believer in the future in a lot of these areas, like with the real estate channel, with becoming a member of the real estate channel and focusing towards that visual media. Is that sort of part of what your mandate, to get that more sort of web and television aspect out there to reach people?
Yeah, it's clearly an exciting time right now because when you've got this much great hair, and in fact when you're leading a firm that is utilizing the latest in technology, I think probably one of the great epiphanies for us as we were launching this firm and looking at using the technology was we can now create relationships over the internet. People can get to find out what we do and who we are long before they pick up the phone and talk to us. And that is really one of the advantages of utilizing technology.
Now, for those that are watching this, how can they get a hold of you to get more information or to perhaps use your services?
They can go into our website, which is a wonderful source of information, which is www.bellalliance.ca, or just call myself or Ron Usher personally at 604-873-8723. Be more than happy to answer any questions.
And of course, your membership profile is on the real estate channel. You can click on that. It takes you right to the site as well.
Excellent.
Very, very nice having you on the show, Richard. Always a pleasure.
My
That's
pleasure.
Richard Bell from Bell Alliance. Thank you very much for coming on FYI.
My pleasure, Matt. Thanks very much.